Did you ever wonder what would happen if DreamWorks' most powerful characters fought against the real-world army? How would they fare against modern weapons like fighter jets, tanks, bombs, or even missiles? Well, in order to answer that, I split the army's power into 5 different levels. And with each level, they'd get a huge increase in power. We'll first see how each character does on their own. And at the end of the video, we'd see what happens when all the characters fight the army together. Let's start with Po, the Dragon Warrior. And in the first level, Po would have to fight against regular armed soldiers with modern weapons. This is light work for Po, as bullets wouldn't do much damage thanks to his insane durability, and even if they did, Po's body literally absorbs impacts. Just as it did with Tailong, where none of his nerve strikes dealt any damage, he could casually roll through the battlefield, disarming soldiers and knocking them out without even trying. Po clears level 1 easily. Seeing the opponent is much stronger than they thought, the army would add a second wanted level to his name. This includes sending tanks and helicopters. This is where things get interesting. Tanks fire explosive shells and helicopters rain bullets from above, which should be enough to overwhelm our panda, right? Well, not completely. You see, Po has dealt with something very similar. Just like it happened with Shen, Po could positively reflect the tank's fire back at them. And also, using his agility, chi control, and raw strength, he could flip some tanks, smash them apart, and leap high enough to destroy helicopters mid-air. Po would take level 2. Because yeah, I've not even talked about his Dragon Warrior transformation. However, level 3 increases the difficulty a lot, as now the army would bring fighter jets. Does Po even stand a chance? Click the subscribe button to wish him good luck. While Po is incredibly strong, he lacks reliable long-range attacks and has no real way to consistently deal with jets moving at supersonic speed. Not only that, jets could drop missiles, which would give Po a very hard time. In order to win, Po would have to resort to using his Dragon Warrior transformation, which gives him increased speed, strength, flight, and literal intangibility. So yeah, it might take a long time, but Po would still come out victorious. Damn, Po hasn't disappointed so far. However, I think the 4th level is where his luck completely runs out, as now, in this level, the army would get knowledge of the specific character they are fighting. Think of it like the army getting a list of weaknesses of the character and preparing accordingly. For this one, I think the army would just set dumplings as a trap to lead Po into a minefield, and knowing Po, he'd fall for it and would completely get destroyed. Man, and Po really went a long way, which is impressive, considering he was our first character. However, I don't think the same would go for others, and we've still not seen level 5, which is the army's full power. Would anyone be able to reach this level? Let's find out. Next up is Tailong. Level 1 wouldn't even register as a fight. Soldiers wouldn't be able to time his movements or even react before Tailong's speed blitzes them. Level 2 is similar. He could easily evade most attacks and tear tanks apart with raw strength. And as for helicopters, they would be destroyed with precise nerve strikes or thrown debris. This incredible performance would earn Tailong a 3rd wanted level. But this is where Tailong hits his wall, and that's because fighter jets are simply too fast, and missile strikes cover too wide an area. Tailong is powerful, but he's still a grounded fighter. Without flight or long-range attacks, he would try to hold out, but at some point he would get overwhelmed and taken down. A pretty sad ending for Tailong, but there are still 7 more to cover. And at the end of the video, we would see what happens if all the strongest characters fought the army together. Moving on to Pitch Black. Level 1 is effortless. In darkness, soldiers wouldn't even know what's killing them. Level 2 also favors Pitch. He's fast and can move through shadows, so most of their attacks would barely scratch him. And as normal humans, they would begin to panic once they see none of their attacks are working, and that's gonna make Pitch even stronger. He can even take over the choppers and make them destroy the tanks. Yeah, he has a lot of ways to win this level, but level 3 is where Pitch's weakness becomes clear. He relies on darkness and fear, and modern warfare doesn't care about that. Fighter jets and bombs would wipe out entire areas regardless of what's inside. Pitch is powerful, but not built for large-scale destruction. Yeah, it is quite surprising to see even fear itself lose against the army, but how about Death? Now let's talk about Death, the wolf from Puss in Boots. Level 1 is a massacre. Death moves just as fast as bullets, so there wouldn't be anything a level 1 army would do against him. Level 2 barely slows him down either. Tanks mean nothing when he can cut through steel, and helicopters can be brought down by sheer speed and precision. Level 3, once again, would be a problem, as I don't think Death has good attack range to even get to the fighter jets, and they could rain missiles on him. While Death is incredibly durable and seemingly immortal in nature, his physical body can still be destroyed, and I don't see Death holding on against continuous bombardment of missiles. Death reaches level 3, but that's where he ends. Toothless is considered one of, if not the strongest dragon in DreamWorks, so let's see how he would fare up. Level 1 is nothing. Level 2 is even easier. Tanks and helicopters are perfect targets for plasma blasts. And yeah, should I even talk about the fact that Toothless dominates the skies? Level 3? Well, still manageable. Toothless is fast, agile, and destructive enough to take down jets if he's careful. His plasma blasts are also decently fast against jets. I think he'd be able to hit most of them and successfully be one of the few ones to reach level 4, where the army gains knowledge of his weakness, Hiccup. And like I said in my previous video, finding a way to kidnap him would significantly reduce Toothless's overall actions, which from there, they could then use the fighter jets to stop him. Next is Megamind. Level 1 and 2 are jokes to him. His tech outclasses modern weapons, and his inventions could shut down anything at this stage. Level 3 fighter jets don't stop him either. Megamind has countermeasures, lasers, shields, and anti-air weapons. So yeah, he would pass the mighty level 3. He reaches level 4 with ease. But once the army studies him, they would realize his biggest weakness isn't physical, it's his overconfidence. Megamind tends to monologue, overthink, and delay victory. The army exploits that with a surprise full-scale strike, taking him out before he can adapt. Okay, I know most of you might argue, but I think the army has more than enough resources to do that. Anyways, Megamind stops at level 4. And finally, we have Metroman. Let's be honest, levels 1 to 3 don't matter. Bullets, tanks, jets, missiles, none of it can touch him. Metroman moves so fast that everything around him may as well be frozen in time. At level 4, the army would study him. However, they wouldn't be able to find anything to use against him. This would make him be the only candidate here to reach level 5, where the army uses everything, including biotechnology and even nuclear weapons. Could Metroman really survive a nuclear explosion? Well, we know that Megamind was about to shoot Metroman with a beam charged with the power of the sun, which is quite similar to a nuclear, only much weaker. And I think that sun blast could, at the very least, deal damage to Metroman, meaning the same thing would be said about the nuke. But all this doesn't really matter, because Metroman doesn't need to tank a nuke, he can simply leave. So yeah, Metroman is the first character who completely defeats the real-world army on his own. Now, this is the most interesting part. What if all of them fought together? Level 1, 2, and 3 would be nothing new, and none of the characters would even break a sweat. When the army gains information on their weaknesses in level 4, it wouldn't really be of any use. Let's be honest, most of the characters that didn't make it past level 3 don't really have an exploitable weakness. For example, Tailong and Death's weaknesses are something the soldiers can't really use against them. As long as the long-ranged attacks are taken care of, they would be completely fine. This would mean that all characters would make it to level 5, where the army would use a freaking nuke. Can they really stop it? Well, I'll leave that one to you in the comments. Tell me, do you think they would stop it or not? Check out this video to see me create the most powerful character in DreamWorks history. Go on, check it out.